All right. Okay, so again, welcome. Google Club, Google Tools for Homework. Next one is April 20th. And then the personal learning plan, again, we'll send this out to remind you this was sort of the homework and some links out to various documents we used to help start the process, and now we'll come back to it. So today we are really concentrating on the ways to use Google for homework, and Liz Elena is going to start us off by looking at some ways to use Google Classroom for that. Take it away, Liz Elena.
So yeah, so hey, for the Google Classroom. So what I had in mind when Neil and I were coordinating this session today was kind of show you various Google Classrooms, like, and kind of showcase two pieces of the Google Classroom homework related aspect, which is the way as instructor we could request homework, the way we petition the homework, right? And the way the students submit that work to us. So there are two angles of this. So that's why I have many tabs open to show you like a real Google Classroom going on right now.
And I'm going to stop sharing, Liz Elena.
Yes, I could. Thank you. Right,
you
and then I have a Google Classroom, which I'm a student. You know, I invite myself to be students to kind of see what's happening behind the curtain, right? When the students get a request for a quiz or for an assignment or material, how is it that it looks like? Many of you are familiar with the Google Classroom. I believe you've done a lot of work with the Google Classroom. So in this case, I'm just going to slowly share my experience with it, right? And show you and share with you what I've done with the Google Classroom. I'm sure you have many other brilliant ideas too. So feel free to jump in or share or give tips as I go along. So it's just, I wanted to share my experience, what I have. So I'm going to start asking you, kind of taking you to a current Google Classroom. I'm going to show you what's going on in that classroom and for you to look and flavor how it feels to have a bunch of the students in the classroom. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me a minute. Let me get my duckies in order. So this Google Classroom that I'm going to share with you right now is the Foundation of Adult Education Google Classroom. So currently we have about 14 teachers registered for this course. They're taking this course that started in February and it lasts till June. And the LMS that we're using to communicate and to do asynchronous work and homework is this Google Classroom. So very quickly, you know, look at the tabs. Let's kind of review very quickly. The stream, I use it to communicate with them, announce homework. I kind of, let me scroll down so you see, here's my Zoom link. So they could join each of the meetings on Friday. People make comments pertinent to the class or to a homework. So kind of, I like it because it's a two-way to communicate with each other, and also kind of builds community a little bit, even asynchronously. So people, just for the privacy of them, I'm not going to show you, but I have all my students there, right? And also the grades, right? Which shows me at once whatever work has been submitted, what is missing, and the grades they're getting, or sometimes it's just not grade, it's just a submission, right? So let me walk you through the second tab, which is really important for me as one of the teachers for the course, right? And also for the students to submit the course. So this is a tab that is very important to me. As you can see right here, so automatically when you have a Google Classroom created, Google creates a Google Calendar for that class. So everything that I'm assigning to the students, it's there in the Google Calendar and they know. So as part of the calendar, they know, well, there is a submission coming March 18 on a Friday. They know that. And automatically the class also gets a folder inside my drive. And I believe I can share that with the students. The students have access to that work too. All right, so as you can see, this is a functioning class. So you see, if you move your eyes to the left, these are the navigation, right? Session 1, syllabus, session 2, session 3, all the topics have been created. And I use topics to organize the class, right? It populates quite a bit from session 1 through session 10 and all the work in between. So I find that the topics is a way to organize the work so I could access it and the students could access it at ease. So for example, to me, it's really important to start with that in mind, my design of the classroom. I know that I want to organize my sessions and I want to organize each of the topics I'm addressing during this session under that particular session. So create, I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to create my materials for session 5. I add, and you can see the session has been created. So everything I'm going to add to that session 5 is going to be under that, right? Session 5. Let me scroll down for you, or actually I don't have to scroll down. Let me show you session 1. So we already occurred. So you could see, you know, a brief reflection, petition, a pre-reading assignment, a feedback form for them. So everything gets inside that. The syllabus is here. So if they want to access the syllabus, that's right there. Session 2, same. Session 3, session 4, which is coming up, right? It's the upcoming session. So let's get to the classwork tab again, and let's click on create. So material is one of the easiest one to use. Simply, let's say I have a reading material for them that I want to create, that I want them to read. Say I want them to watch a video just to have it at hand before the session. I simply could go material, say, watch this video. Oh, sorry about the spelling. Watch this video now, right? So description is optional, and I have the choice to actually add the link. Say I have a video right there. I open YouTube and that's the video I want to use. I paste the link over there, or I can simply kind of go right here and search, right? Say I want to say instructional objectives. So I search. Let's say I want to do this one. This is the one I want. I click on it, right? And I add the video. So that video is right there for the students to use. What I have to do is I'm going to assign it right to session 5. So I'm going to repeat this again. So I have my video. I find the video that I wanted to use for that particular class, but I'm going to organize it, right? So the way I want it is I want to add the topic to session 5. And then I'm going to assign it to all students, right, in the class, in this case. So you have the choice. Let's say you have a particular student that you want to reinforce particular topics, and you only want to assign that video for that student. You can do that, right? You can say, all right, I want Anna to watch this video, right? So you could assign it just for Anna, or you could assign it for all the students. So you always have that choice, which is really, really good. And then you could actually post it if you're ready to go. You could schedule it when you want it to go out, which I think is very useful in classroom management, or you could simply save the draft, which I'm going to do. So again, create material is something you have pre-developed, you have at hand, easy to post. You could also reuse the post, right? Last year, we ran the same class, right? So let's say I want a reading material that I want this cohort to read again. I simply could click on reuse my post. I find the class, see Foundations 2021, right? That's from last year. I click on it and I look for the document I want to reuse. I click on it and I post it again. Very useful when you're repeating the same course or the same class. Again, create. We started with material, something pre-made, a video you have at hand. You just wanted the students to read it. You don't want engagement throughout. It works for me. Reuse post, something you have developed already. Let's click again. So look at all my classrooms, my Google Classrooms. Let's say I want to reuse a material from foundations from last year's cohort. I click on it and I look the document I want to share. I simply click on this and reuse it, and it will populate. Very useful when you're repeating and you have created information. Now I'm going to go to my 3 top way to assign students and get work to students and get feedback and have students collaborate with each other or interact with me or among each other. And those are the assignment, the quiz assignment, and the question. Right? So I'm going to start with asking the question. So I click on the question and I say, how do you go about writing class objectives, right? Please share your thoughts. Share your thoughts with the class and interact with your peers. So it's a question. I'm going to look at the navigation on the side. I'm going to assign it to session 5. So it's organized under that session. I want to say that students can reply to each other because I want that interaction. And I want them to edit the answer. I want them to have this ready before the session by, let's say, March 24th by 5 p.m., right? And then it's just a question. I don't want to grade it, right? It's going to be ungraded, and I want all the students participating. I don't want to click ask the question because if I click, they're going to get that notification and they're going to be confused. So this is an actual class. I simply going to save the draft, all right? If I ask the question, they will be asked that question and then they will be, oh, what's going on? So save draft. So if you look again to my classwork, now I have shared a video with them through material. And I have also asked a question to the class and look at, I'll say the logo, Nell, or the icon, right? How would you say this is? The icon, right? Indicating that this is a question. Now, another interesting way is a quiz assignment, right? So let's say I really want to quiz them on this after the class. So I get a quiz assignment. So this is your quiz number 3. I always like to put the title. Okay, good luck, something like that. And then I create my blank quiz. So you have the form already, right? So it's linking to something you really know from Google, which is a Google form. So I go here. It's a blank quiz right now. So all about instructional objectives, right? And then I get true or false, right? And then, you know, I play with it, I make it mandatory, and I forgot something. I really want to collect answers. So I typically go, I create a drop-down menu and I copy paste all of their names there. So they select their name, right? So in that way, and then you could also, you know, kind of, so I see that my quiz is looking like this. It's not very pretty, so I'm gonna kind of beautify it if I want. So I'm gonna choose an image, say these jelly beans are beautiful, right? And it's kind of working the digital skills we have working with this Google app, right? When I go back here, gotta refresh. So you see the quiz already, and notice these 3 dots. Right? What I can do with the 3 dots is click on it again and I edit it, right? So what I'm gonna do again is assign the topic to session 5, right? I'm gonna give it a day because I want them to reply that by March 24. Time is optional, it's not necessary. And I'm gonna allow, you know, the 100 points to all students. And then what you do is assign, but remember, I'm not going to assign it because then they will get a notification. So I'm going to again save the draft. So if you go back to the classwork, you will see that under session 5, I already have the video, the quiz, right? And the question. Remember? So I have 3 activities. The video, which I don't want an interaction. I have the questions, which I'm expecting interaction. I'm expecting the students to answer the question, right? And then I have a quiz. Another interesting way about the Google Classroom is the creation of the assignment, which is something I use when I want them to actually write something to me. And I need to, let's say they have to submit a lesson plan and I want to give them my feedback on the lesson plan they're creating. I use this particular way. So I say draft your objectives. So what I do is, for example, I have a material ready for them. So I go to my drive. When it loads, it's a little slow. There you go. Give me a minute. So it's loading. It's a little slow. So because I want to show you. So let's say, let me go to my folder. Oh dear. I'm going to go to the folder of the class. There you go. And then I want to, this is the document I want to share, right? So I'm going to select on it and I'm going to insert it, right? And notice that I have choices now. So student can view the file, students can edit the file and make a copy for each student. So I could just say can view the file and they can create a copy on their own. I don't want them to edit this file. I don't want them to change anything. So I'm going to say I'm going to make a copy for each student. So I'm going to assign it to session 5, right? I'm going to then calendarize it for the 24 again by 5 p.m. Right? I'm not going to grade this. It's the first draft of the objective. So, and I'm going to assign it. When I assign, all the students would get a notification. So I'm going to save the draft for now. So again, utilizing the classwork tab at its maximum, at its full potential, I have used material, question, quiz assignment, and the assignment. That's the view as a teacher, right? I'm sharing as a teacher. Look, Liselena, Raju, and Will are the teachers for this class. So as a teacher, this is my view. This is what I see. So before I stopped, and just in case you have any question, so I'm going to show you session 1, and this was homework 2. So if you can see homework 2, I have 9 students have submitted this work already. See? So that was homework. Let me go to session 1 or session 2, I believe it was. So this is a homework they had. So as a teacher, I could click on the 9 students that have submitted, and I have all the reply, right? So this is a question that we asked, right? And I have 9 students have submitted their answers to me. And I know this is me as a student, so, but I know like now I have 3 people that have not submitted the materials. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let you. Okay, Judy, I haven't used Google Classroom. Okay, if you have any questions, go ahead. Assuming you have a Google Classroom, but the first step is to create your Google Classroom.
So I have a question for what you just did, where you were tracking and you had 3 people that were missing the work.
Yes.
Is there a way to go back into Google Classroom and notify them, what's
Yes.
going on, so
Yes.
on and so forth?
Yeah, the way I will do that, and I don't want to show you because I want to respect the privacy of the students, but the way I will do that, right, I will go to my classwork again, right? And I will select, let's say, Mary didn't do the homework, right? So I'm going to go to my list, I'm going to create a question, and I'm going to select Mary, privately only Mary, and I'm going to say, hey, Mary, I noticed you're still missing homework 2, 3, and 4. I wonder if you need any help, if you want to meet with me during office hours to go over it, please let me know as soon as you can. Boom. Submit, ask the question, but that question will be directed to Mary.
Just to her,
only.
yeah.
If I
Okay.
have Mary, Joseph, and Tim, what I do is to classroom management, right? I want to gain time. I want to play with my time. So instead of saying, hi, Mary, so I generalize it, right? I say, hi, I hope you're doing well. I've noticed you blah, blah, blah. Please let me know. But then I select Tim, Mary, and Joseph, right? And they will see that privately. And they will reply to me also privately.
And Lizalena, they will receive it both in their Google Classroom, but also as an email if they
As
have
an
it
email
set up.
notification, which is that's me as a teacher, right? Now I sign myself as a student for that class, and I want to show you that. So you see me as a student, right? Say I'm participating. Give me a minute. Let me find the tab that I have to show you. So what you're gonna see right now is me as a student, right, of that course. And you will see what is it that my students see. So
Okay.
this is me as a student, right? So as a student, you see stream, classwork, and people. You don't see the grades. Remember the other tab I had?
Yeah.
Remember, I had grades. Now, as a student, you don't see that because that's the view of the student. So classwork, right? So I'm going to show you a homework, right, that I have for session 4, which is a pre-assignment for session 4. I have to sequence a lesson plan. So it's a question, right? See the icon?
Okay.
I've been asked a question. So as a student, I click on it, right? And I'm going to view the question. In your opinion, what was the most effective lesson? What criteria did you have in mind to make your selection? So I have to look at this document, right? This document has the information I want them to look at, but I looked at it and I'm ready. So I'm ready with my answer, right? Your answer, I'm gonna say lesson 3 was very effective. I think so. I think blah, 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 right? And then I turn it in, right? So this is my answer. And look at it, classmate will see your answer, right? Because I made that. Remember, I set that. I set it up that way.
Okay.
For this particular question, I want all of them to see their answers, reply to each other, right? I could make it private, but I didn't want to. So once I turn it in, that's it. My answer goes. So I wanted to show you that. Let me delete it so they don't get. I want to show you another type of assignment for you to look at.
Lizalena, Louise had her hand raised.
Louise, sorry, I didn't see you.
Okay.
That's okay. I just wondered, when you join as a student, are you using a different email?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
I have like 3 Gmail accounts for that purpose. Kind of to test it first, right? To test all the app first as a student, see how it looks like from that end. And once I feel comfortable with it, then I proceed. If I don't feel comfortable, I don't proceed, because then I don't want them to notice not because I'm afraid of not knowing anything. I mean, that's not never my fear. We're all learning together. The fear is like, you know, if they see me hesitating, that kind of makes them hesitate too, believe that maybe the app is not that effective when it is. So I don't want my hesitation to influence their thoughts on working digitally, you know?
And
So-
Sandra also has her hand raised. Sorry, go on with your
No,
thought.
no, go ahead, I'm sorry. So I wanted to show you, so I show you how to answer, you know, to that question, but this is, I wanted to show you something which I don't find, where they have to post some, an assignment.
Sanju has her hand raised. Sanju, is it
Okay.
related to this section or is it something else?
Yeah, I was wondering, because there's a rubric we can use.
Yes,
Do you have
yes.
any examples that you've been using?
So when I work, Sandy, let me jump to the rubric before, if I see if I find this. The assignment, which I guess I didn't, I don't have an assignment at hand to show you. Give me a minute. This is material. Look at the icon, red material. This is a question. This is the slide, so they have access. This is the hyperdoc, so I don't have anything. But I could show you the slides. So let me show you the slides again before I go to Sanji's rubric. So when I assign slides, the assignment to student where they have to write something for me, let me show you how it looks like, and I snip it so you will have a view of it. So when I have an assignment for them where they have to submit material, right? They see this work, right? Post-reflection, submit your post-reflection by 3/11. So they have a Google Doc that they have to read, right? And they have to answer. When they get that, they cannot type over my document, right? They have to create their own. So they can submit it back to me. And when they have that, immediately move your eyes to the right, and you see this, you see this box here that says your work, add or create, mark as done. So when the students have to submit written pieces to me, they have to go here and they have to click on add or create.
What's the difference between, sorry, what's the
Go
difference
ahead.
between add or create then?
Sometimes if I give them, if I share the document as they could, they have to create their own copy, right? They just have to add the answers to my question. But if I didn't give that choice, they have to create their own Google Doc.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, they have to create their own. So once they click on that, add or create, which I pointed that for you, the next step is this menu drops down and you select an app, right? Either a doc, slide, sheet, or a drawing. In this case, it's a Google document. So they're gonna click on the Google document. Boom, they click on that. And it happens automatically, right? And then after that, when they click on the Google document, a Google document appears for them, right? And then look, it's right here. This is the Google document newly created, and they type whatever they have to type to me, either objectives or a first draft of a lesson plan. They actually click. Once they finish, they turn it in. They turn it in for me. And once they turn it in, that's it. I get a notification on my email. Louise turned in her assignment number 2. So I know that Louise is ready with that assignment. Then I go back to it. And as a teacher, I have Google Classroom creates in a way that I have no editing. I can add comments, right? What I do is as a commenter, right? I can add it. I can say, hey, Louise, take a look at your objective number 3. So I submit my feedback that way, right? And then they get notifications and they come back and they fix it, and then it becomes a collaborative process that way. Now, to me, out of everything I show you, the assignment portion of it, when you create an assignment, always, I have to prep the students. I have these snips, for them. I model how it looks for them. I model what they're gonna see. At times I prepare a document with all these snips. I also record myself, or Will, my co-teacher, has a mini video on that. So I anticipate the barrier, because out of everything we use, the assignment piece of it, which is really useful, right, is the one that brings a lot of trouble for them sometimes, right? So I anticipate that barrier. I see the digital skills that are needed, and I create two things: a document with the snips that guides them through, or a video accompanying that. So if they encounter a barrier, they should have enough resources to overcome it. And they can always email me. So I'm gonna stop the sharing. And I know I have the rubric, and I also know that Judy is raising her hand. So I'm gonna stop right here. And I don't know if you have, before I jump into rubrics and things like that, if you have any questions.
Yeah, so my question has to do with something I noticed before you got into the snippet piece, okay? Which was you had something called makeup, like a makeup assignment or something like that.
Yes, that was my
When
position.
do you use that?
Oh, so one of the students missed the class last session, and when because this is a course that we give certificates, right, like Tesla. So when a student misses a class, I have to prepare a makeup assignment, right, for them. And what I did was, good question, Judy, it was one student. So only one student. So I prepare something for him. I actually prepare a hyperdoc. So I prepare something for him that guides them through the process of doing the homework. So that makeup assignment that you saw is only for that particular student. So he was assigned that. He has still 2 weeks to do it, so he has plenty of time, and then he will submit it back to me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question before I go a little bit on rubrics?
Oh, I saw the when you do the post assignment, the students can edit and they can comment to other students. There's 2 things you can click,
And
right?
3 things you could do. Actually, when you do the assignment, you have 3. When you will book, my assignment is ready, right? So there's 3 categories, if you call it, right? You can make kind of tell Google, hey, make a copy for each student. So Google creates a copy for each of the students independently, right?
How do you set up that? Is it from the
Google-
setting, or
Google does it for me.
my Google Classroom doesn't have?
No? Oh,
I don't
that's
see it.
strange. Let me check again.
Maybe it's the setup setting.
Maybe it's the setup, but I don't know. I will have to.
So Lithuania, does that automatically happen once you post it? Because you put it all in draft, just to
I
illustrate
did
to
put,
us.
so I did draft because remember this. I wanted to show you a real Google Classroom. So if I posted my students, my real students right now are gonna say, "What is she doing? We're in session 5." So I save it as draft. Which
But as soon as you post it, if you were to post it, then Google would automatically do the copies for each student.
let me go back to that. So there are a couple of things there, I think, and then jump in if you want. So if I post, let's say I go to draft your objectives, right? I go to my 3 dots, I click, I edit, right? And I assign, right? Boom, it shows for the students. So I'm gonna go back again. So this is my session 5. And if you notice, everything within session 5 is just a draft, because I didn't want my students to get notifications that are not necessary. So, but if I want to modify, I hover over it, and there is a draft with the 3 dots. So I click on it, and you could delete it, you could move up, or you can move down, or edit. So when I click on edit, right, you could assign it. Boom. That's it. It goes live. Or you could save the draft again, right? But once that is back, and this is an assignment type, you have 3 choices. You can make a copy for each student. The students can edit the file if you want them to work on that with you, right? And the students can simply view the file. Only view.
Oh, I think what I meant was it was different section under rubric. There was a little thing that you can
Exactly. So if I want to grade,
box.
this is a draft, so I don't want to grade it, right? It's just the first draft. And I say points, I said ungraded. But if I want to grade it, and I don't know why it's not collaborating now. Anyways, if I want to grade it, it will give you the 100, right? And then there is the rubric. For when you click on rubric, you could reuse the rubric, you could import it from Sheets, or you create right there on the spot. So what I do with my rubric is I prepare it before, right? I prepare my criteria before, and then I either import it from the Sheets, right? Or I reuse it. And you have the choice of creating 1, 2, which is very useful, right? So you the criterion title, the descriptions, and the points, etc. I can't unfortunately create anything because I decided to use a real classroom, and again, I don't want them to get confused. But you could create it on the spot, but I never do that. I always pre-think about my rubric. Right? I always have it ready prior to the assignment. So what I do is I import from Sheets. So I have my Sheets ready. I have my rubric here, and I click on it and I add it. I have never done the create rubric, like doing it on the spot. Because I always take time to rethink it. And what happened is sometimes I just reuse it, right? If it's general enough. So
Do you
there
use
is
any
many
good
things you could do.
websites that has already made, pre-made rubrics?
Say that again, Sanju.
Do you use any websites that has already pre-made?
Yeah, it depends. So I change. So if it's for an objective, we typically here for this class use a rubric for the lesson plan only, right? Because I mean, that's one of the most important assignments of the course. So I want them to be clear what is it that Will and I are looking at. So Will and I prepare a rubric for them. And I actually, as a good practice during the session before, we discussed the rubric so they understand the criterion and the level. So nothing is a surprise. But when, that's a conversation about rubric itself, which we could have here too, as part of the Google Club, but very useful. I find the assignment portion of the Google Classroom, this one, right, the first one, this assignment portion, very useful because I have the choice for them to submit a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, Google Slides. Now, what I have to say in my experience is it is very useful, but in my experience, I have to train my students to use it, right? To prepare them. Hey, this is very useful, but this is what you're gonna see as a student. And I walk them through the steps, the snips that you saw, right? We walk it through together. So when they on their own submitting their homework, they're not barriers or difficulties in the submission. And that's how I play with the Google Classroom. I find it to be an excellent place for repository, to organize the class, for asynchronous work, for community interactions, for easy access to materials. And overall, my score is that it's very, very useful, user-friendly. Very user-friendly. Everything almost is self-explanatory. And of course, I have students who are like, I know, thank you, and they figure it out. But what I think is before assigning anything or bringing a Padlet or bringing a Jamboard to the Google Classroom is okay, what are the digital skills needed that the students are going to be needing so they're successful with this activity? And I either discuss it with them prior, or I provide a quick video, or I provide snips. I like Will, my colleague, my co-teacher Will, he loves videos. I do love to prepare snips and hyperdogs, and I'm more like I like visuals, so I like to prepare that for them. But that's great because the visual learners would get my hyperdog or my Canva design, whatever, and then the auditory learners would get Will's explaining everything throughout. But first, I think about content. What is the content? Then I decide what's the tool, and then I move it over to the Google Classroom.
And you can access Google Classroom quite well from a phone. So if,
Yes.
if you're working with students who, you're still remote instruction, or you're going to even be meeting in person, but you want to use Google Classroom still as a backup, they can access all of this on their phones.
Yes.
Which is kind of it's all in one place. My sister complained about Google Classroom when her daughters were in school in K-12, and a lot of that was to do with the emails were going to someone else's, like her husband's account. Like there was a lot of goofiness when they signed up into the Google Classroom, and so it was very hard. My sister's complaint was very hard to track what was new, what wasn't. But I think if you're getting the emails and you're as a participant, as a student, you know where to go to look for stuff. And I will say this is also a skill set that it's not bad for our students to practice, because if they do go on to post-secondary in any kind of way, and a lot of jobs even, kind of knowing how to maneuver inside systems like this is actually something they'll need, and practicing it at low stakes will give them some transferable skills. Like every system's a little different, but once you've used one, you're like, oh, this looks like that thing that I know. So
Yeah.
Think about that as a possibility. Certainly, if you don't need all of that stuff, Google Classroom might be too big of a lift, but it's a beautiful Cadillac.
Yeah, and I truly have seen it work. I've worked with teachers where, even pre-COVID, I was working at Mercy Center with one of the Spanish HSC teachers, right? And we were doing Fridays, digital literacy Fridays, right? Even pre-COVID, and little by little we were working. He wanted to use the Google Classroom because I can print all these materials for the reading for the HSC, right? So I said, why don't we put all the readings in a Google Classroom so they access from whenever, and you don't have to worry about making tons of photocopies, right? So I've seen it step by step. Every Friday we will go, right? How do we access? From how do I access and how do I join the classroom to each of the steps and the routine. And one thing I thought he did really well was, all right, he said, this assignment is complicated now. What I want to work is with questions, right? When you ask a question, and the quiz, because they were really comfortable with quizzes already. And he stuck to, he said, I'm gonna just stay with that routine, and they know, and the students became experts, because you repeat it and repeat it. When COVID hit, that everyone got surprised, he was ready. They already had the Google Classroom, and it was pretty interactive. And the students, these were ABE students, okay? He had his HAC, and they had the ABE ready to go with at least an LMS. And the idea was that when we build the coaching sessions that we do, he wanted to learn digital literacy skills and also use it with the classroom. So that was something I saw it done. It's possible, right? And something you could do. Again, as Nello always said, if you want to work more in Google Classroom, you have the choice to contact us, either of us, and we could work on a one-on-one, addressing your specific questions to the class. Anytime.
And are any of you using Google Classroom pretty consistently with your students?
Yes.
Randomly, because the Brooklyn Library has set it up for me,
Okay.
and I feel that there's less privacy. So
Yeah.
I do both. I email my students, and I feel that that's more private. And then I have to post on Google Classroom. But
Got it.
Okay.
yeah, I kind of feel it's too public. I don't know, but
Right.
it's-
Yeah, I get the feeling it's a forum, it's public. The streams are forum. Sometimes I do email, but I do trust when I privately click on, I post a question or a material or something that I want to be addressed to one student, it's private, no one else sees it.
Marika,
Because-
is your concern more because it was set up for you and therefore it's someone else's
Yes,
account?
kind of,
Oh.
because the first time I did set it up and I prefer,
You
I
felt a little bit.
Got it, I
Lauren's-
got what you're saying.
don't- Lauren's in my program too. I don't know how Lauren feels about that.
Okay. So that was my thing for the Google Classroom, and I know Faina uses the Google Classroom, a lot of people do, so overall, I just wanted to wrap it up. It's been successful, easy.
Can I add something? Maybe you will find something good. If I can share, I
Yep.
don't know.
You
Yeah.
can share.
Okay, so this is a pretty big class.
Mm.
It's civics. It's like 36 people. So what I found that it's good to have a welcome material section at the beginning, like how to use Google Classroom or whatever. And also, I don't use like session 1, 2, 3. I use week 1, week 2, and it also helpful. Let's say if it's week 1, I'm gonna do 1.1, like let's say slides, 1.2, some exercises, and like to number each portion. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Last year I was from 1 to 9. I was given like YouTube separate, discussion separate, and then I put myself into the students' shoes. And what happened if they receive like 8 emails? They just ignore it. So what I do, I put slides, YouTube, let's say crossword or live worksheet or Quizlet in one portion. Okay,
Right.
so it eliminates 10 emails. Okay, and it's also good if you go to the grade section. It's easy to see. Okay, so that's 1.4 assignment, 2.4. So I see easily who missed an assignment. It's easy for me to see it on one screen than to go back and forth between.
Thank you for showing that, Faina. That was the part I felt funny about showing, because I'm working with teachers that you may know, so and not everyone has submitted the homework. So, but that's so useful what Faina showed. For Will and I, we see all the we have a lot of working between sessions, right? It's a certificate course, so it's so easy for me to see, oh, here, missing, and then based on that, notify them, right, and things like that. They're useful, yes. Fine, I like the way you organize your class, because you have classes every day. She played week 1, another week 1. She has 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. That's very useful. I only see them. See, you tailor the class to your needs, so I only see them once a week. So once a week. But Faina, you teach every day. So
Lauren, I saw that you unmuted. Did you want to add something? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Oh, no, I mean, I love the idea of the week too. At first, when I started with you, when you first did the Google class with all the applications, I was like, I'm not touching this Google Classroom thing, because I just started with Padlet. So I pretty much use Padlet. I have it organized, I guess, broken up the way that you would with Google Classroom, but normally I would only use a Google Classroom for those applied digital skills projects, since we had to include literacy. And that made it easy for me, like, you did it, you didn't do it, and I'll go through and check. I just started, since our last club, really attaching and opening up like a blank document, and just starting a homework, even a homework slide. Normally I would do all that separate and then attach it. And once we did it here, I was like, oh, I just started creating a slide, like, here's a homework, or importing what I had already created in my lesson plan and just bringing it over. And that, I think, because the case manager does the same thing, we share the Google Classroom. So the announcements that are coming, like you mentioned, Faina, with the emails coming in, I am constantly putting stuff there, like, I found something new. Here's some quiz with vocabulary. We just did careers. Look. And so I'm thinking, you must be excited. You just got vocabulary. But I didn't think about how much I hate getting emails too. You know, as you said, think about the students. So I wonder, some people get it and they're like, thanks, I love this. I can use this. And then somebody else might go, homework, vocabulary, it's all separate. So I do try to schedule it. Like I started scheduling so that when class ends, it either comes at 11 or 12. So when they're active, and then after that, maybe just one time. But I did start attaching, even the Padlet, if I'm going to make one email, Google Classroom announcement, I'll attach the Padlet. Like today I attached the assignment, just in case, even though I already had it written down with the link to the Google Classroom in Padlet, I've noticed that some people are not doing something, or maybe they'll do exactly what they see in Padlet. So if they see the worksheet, they'll do that. But then the assignments over here in Google Classroom, and they won't bother to go. So I've been putting the link to the assignment so they can see it, because I think some people are visual, and maybe if you can see, look, there's a slide there that says homework, and there's the image of the acrostic or whatever we're gonna do. Now, I think that's triggering some people to make them go, oh, is there more work over there? You know, so now there's a little interest, but I think that's something I had not thought about, you know, just attaching. It seemed like more work, but now it seems easier to just think about, well, if you check Padlet, that's one, and if you check over here, that's two. And a lot of the applications that we use, or at least that I use, are directly linking since COVID. All right, to the Google Classroom. So that has saved me a lot of trouble too. You know, the vocabulary, Quizlet, Kahoot, with everything being so kind of streamlined, that has helped me a lot instead of having to to copy the link and put it there, to just have it all at once in one place. So scheduling seems to really make a difference, you know, with putting it in one place. I make a draft as well. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you.
I try to play, because the Google Classroom has a setting, so you could, I tried to see the settings to see if I could control the way the announcements go, and there is no way to do that. So no way to avoid it.
I mean, I think you could work with students on the other end so they know that those are going to come in, and maybe they create a folder where they go. So there's some work you could do on their side, maybe, but it is a source.
But not on my side.
Yeah. Marika, did you want another comment, or were you?
No, I was just,
Okay. Well, that's great, and great to get feedback from all of you using it, because I mean, again, these are the sort of like life experiences, and the things that you're adding are fantastic.
I have a question.
Yes,
Can I
please.
just clarify something here, especially since you're talking, since what Lauren said, et cetera, and what Faina said. So like, Faina, I just want to get a little clarification from you, because you brought up, you know, I'm taking a class as a participant. So my professor keeps sending after class, you know, boom, 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 boom. I have like 4 or 5 different messages on the Google Classroom, and you said that you can somehow break it into like a group form. So you'd get, how do you consolidate that where you're not deluged by messages on Google Classroom? I think you said some way how you structured everything where you avoid that, right?
Okay, first of all, the announcement, okay, I only do once a week when the class is finished, right? So let's say Friday, I do an announcement. Happy Friday, class, okay, this is what we learned. This is, please do this and this. Oh, have one wonderful weekend. So only one time. Now with the assignments, okay, how do I group them? So if you look for the first week, I would say too much, even like only 4 lines. But if you go further, let's say we did, President's Day, right? So now you only 3. And I found that the 3 is enough. So here you can see slides, word search I did for them, YouTube, and Quizlet in one package, okay? Then here it's another package about George Washington. Okay, my slides combined with the live worksheets. And here we did, I think I showed them, okay, I think we did slides for ebook, whatever. Okay, it's taking too long to download. Okay, so this how I group. Okay, and I don't post everything. I just see whatever it's gonna be, whatever they can do. That's how I.
But I think the key here, Fina, what you're showing is that you bundle a few different activities in a single kind of assignment, as it were, versus having those all be separate, which might be if you're in Google Classroom, you might be like, oh, each one should be an individual thing, and so people could see them all. But each one of those is then an email. So you're grouping 4 in one email, basically. And
Yes.
that's a technique.
Yes.
That's a great technique.
Yeah, I like that idea because then then your students aren't getting overwhelmed.
Exactly. And it looks like you also combine them in ways that were kind of logical, like it was a full lesson of that particular topic or whatever. So it's an interesting way to even think about how you divide up the content in your class.
Because let's say this class meets twice a week, right? Wednesday and Friday. So I do one part, I'm teaching one part on Wednesday, another part on Friday. And then where I post, I don't post them in the middle. Just if I want to, something particular. Because, right now, adults, they're not gonna do for you everyday homework. They're busy with their lives, and we realize that.
And the
Sometimes
students, tend to do that right before the day. due date.
Right, or maybe like the hour before.
Right, like 2 hours or 1 hour before.
Minutes before.
I have
know.
a question, Faina. So with putting the assignments together, and I know some of it could be a reading material, a video, that kind of thing. Are there packages or posts where with multiple assignments, they're due on different dates? Like I had to write a story, read something, do something else. Are they also individually in your Google Classroom so you can grade, or is it like you get 100 points if you've read it, you know what I mean? Do they get individual credit or do they get one score?
I do assignment once a week. Okay, I mean, something what they need to do. Let's say if it's a quiz, it's pretty forward. Okay, usually it's due date before the next class. So Friday and due on Wednesday next week. If it's Padlet, which is can be an assignment, right? So they are doing right now famous American women. Okay, so and I'm reusing the Padlet because I didn't want to pay. So we started last week and 21 return, and I perfectly expected that they are not going to be returning all of them at the same time. So I started with something, okay, so this is necessary, and I can actually alternate. So first half of the class, 4 people are presenting, okay? Second half of the class, 2. Let's say next class. So this way, it can be longer, and I can manipulate with the due date. And you know that, right? I can do it, but I need to keep a discipline, okay? Once a week, you need to do something, okay? Of course, if it's a Google Doc, it's a pain on the neck, because when it's a huge class, it's too much. But because I'm teaching civics, I'm not too much in writing. They have their writing class. Be happy with your writing class. I'm just thinking, they're giving me a class. I don't know how it's gonna go. Afghani refugees, okay, women, okay, who never went to school, never hold a pen. They don't know how to write their names. I don't think I'm gonna go through the Google Classroom here.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
do you think you would use a technology tool that was just a little bit less overwhelming? Or do you think they're not going to be very, like, they'll have phones, but they might not be very savvy using them?
So first of all, their phones mostly not theirs, it's their husbands,
Right.
whatever, right? So I think about only visual tools.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah, interesting.
And the Google Classroom is not gonna work for them as an assignment tool, or
It's a barrier. It will be a barrier, I think, for them more than it would be a help. But it could be that you, so, because what I'm very intrigued here, so my brain has been working on this idea of digital skills. During pandemic, I just sort of accepted that, you know, students are on their phones. We can't really work with them very deeply on digital literacy skills. There's certain skills we could work on, but mostly it's just great that they're joining you and that there's some way that you're exchanging information, but it's much more about the content rather than the digital literacy skills. As we move back to in person, and you have an opportunity now to meet with your students in person, and maybe they can access computers in your organization, thinking about how we bring digital literacy skills explicitly, but in an applied way inside the content. And I know you already have way too many things to do, so you don't want to do crazy things, but like if we could have a very clear list of, okay, do my students know how to attach an image to an email? Because that's a skill that people should have, right? Like to attach something to an email is actually a really great skill, and we can use that for them to send back their homework. See where this is my part. This is the next part. But I'm intrigued here for, especially with the lower level ESL students or lower level literacy students who may or may, and I know this population has other challenges or barriers that make it even more difficult perhaps for them to use phones and to use the digital side of things. But I'm intrigued at that level, like how can we still be bringing in, what level of digital skills should we be bringing in, and what's the best way without it becoming a barrier? Because for a lot of people who are struggling with so many other things, just adding tech can feel like I'm going away, I'm never coming back to this class again, they made me use my phone, I don't know. Yeah.
and especially if you don't speak a word.
Yeah.
I don't speak a word in Pashto or Dari. Okay?
Right. The one thing I'll say is that there probably are videos out there, and this is one thing to think about sometimes. I think with the digital literacy side of things, like sometimes there are videos in other languages that if they need that extra little bit of help, and what Liz Elena was showing earlier, where you could just, again, this is not for you, Fina, because your class sounds like a very special situation, not special, but a type of situation that I don't think this is even a help with. But what I did like about what Liz Elena showed as far as like being able to send videos to a specific student who might need help on a specific thing, that ability inside Google Classroom is sort of interesting to me, because I do think there are times when maybe a video in a certain language or on a specific skill or topic that only 3 students really need that, the rest need, 2 others need help on this, or 4 others need help on that, that you can individualize it that way.
Let's see who is gonna
Yes.
drop first new of them.
Well, it's exciting, Fina. I hope you, yes, bring stories back for us. We all want to hear how that goes.
Oh my.
So I'm going to move us along. If you have other questions on what we've already been talking about, definitely put them in the chat, and we'll hopefully have a little bit of time at the end still to ask more questions or to think now as it's percolating through your head too. Maybe you'll come up with some other thoughts. So what I wanted to cover were some other ways to perhaps have that exchange of homework with your students outside of Google Classroom, but still using Google tools. And the 2 primary ones that I'm going to work with today are Google Photo and Gmail. And the idea there, so I don't know, how many of you have used Google Photo? Personally, maybe not in instruction. Okay, so Google Photo, guess what? You have a Google account, you have Google Photo. I'm an Android phone person, so Google Photo is sort of what my phone automatically has set up. So every time I take a photograph, it's set up so it automatically goes to Google Photo, which means that any device I go to, my work computer, my home computer, a library computer, I can log in to Google Photo and see my photos there. Inside Google Photo, I can create albums. And my thought was that as a teacher, I could create an album, right, for the homework due this week. And I can share a link to that album with my students, and then I can give them the ability to add images to my album. I tried it out. You do actually, the students in this case would need to have Google accounts. So I thought maybe they could add to my album without a Google account, but it doesn't look like you can consistently. You certainly can look at an album, and that's something else to think about. But you can't add, even if I'm the person with a Google account and I create the album, for you to add to it, you will need to have a Google account. So that's the one thing to think about. The Gmail piece, I'm going to take this down more slowly and take you through each piece. But the Gmail piece is interesting because you could have them send their photos to you via Gmail, and straight from Gmail, you can send them to Google Photo, and you could still arrange them in an album that everyone could share. And the kinds of photos I was thinking, I mean, they could just be regular photos, but I also thought, I know students take pictures of their written homework, right? Or maybe they did a worksheet and they take a picture where they filled in if they got paper version or something like that. So to me, the photo piece has all of those options, right? If they're using their phone and filling out a form on their phone, they don't need to send you a picture. But if there's something, and they could do screenshots too. So I'm going to take us out, look at the kind of basics of this. So the way Google Photo, so guess how you get to Google Photo? Photo.google.com.
Google Drive with
The waffle.
The waffle, all of these
waffle.
options, but it's going to be photos.google.com at the very least, right? So if I go up here and I type in, I think it's actually not photos, I think it's, oh, it is photos.google.com. Up come because I'm already logged in, up comes my Google Photos, right? And when I come in, I'm going to see all the pictures. And if I scroll down the side, I can look at pictures from like a long time ago, right? All the way down to, well, that's not that long ago. There we go, 2010, whatever. On the side, I also have albums. So it's the album part that I'm particularly interested in today. So if I go here, I'm going to view all my albums. And to make a new album, you just click Create Album. When you create an album, the two things that have to happen, you have to name it something, and you have to add at least one image. So it's good to have your image already ready. And you can do this on your phone. It's almost easier. It's in some ways easier on your phone. But if you're on a computer, you can do it there too. So we could say homework week 2 ES4. So that's my class. That's going to be related to this class. I am going to select a photo. You can actually, for your own sake, you can set up these automatic ones. It's a little creepy because Google does a really good job of facial recognition. So you could set up a album that would self-populate with all the pictures of me or all the pictures of one of my cats or whatever. But we're not going to look at that. We're going to pretend we don't know. So select a photo. Goes back to all my images, and the homework assignment was to send me the names of 2 radio stations you liked. So I'm going to select that image. Notice what happened there was that this little blue check happened. I can do multiple pictures at the same time, but in this case, I'm just going to do the one, and I'm going to click done. And now that image is in here. The sort of default setup is going to be based on date or when they're added. So as students, or if students were adding to this, their photos would come in a certain order. You can change the order around by going to the 3 dots and clicking edit album. You can say what the album cover should be, which will be the little thumbnail image that people will see, so that can be helpful. You can get rid of the album. You can download the pictures, and you can also see the pictures in a slideshow. So maybe if you were showing them to a class via Zoom, you could do it that way too. So once I'm here, I want to share it, right? This is the point that we're creating a space for other people to come in and add their content. So I'm going to go up to share. Now notice over here, there's nothing here yet. There's going to be something. So I want you to notice that there's nothing here yet. So I'm going to go to share. And you can, if you have the email addresses of all your students, you could put them all in here. as usual, I kind of tend to go with the create a link. So let anyone with a link see photos and people in the album. So this is step one. Right now, you're just getting a link to let people see the album. So we're creating our link, and we're actually going to ignore this right now. I don't know why they make you do it this way, but just notice now when I click on this X, it refreshes, and now I get these 3 little images. And this share is a lot beefier. In here, I can say, should people be able to add photos? Should they be able to comment on the photos? And should they be able to share the link with other people? And you could, for a class, you might not want them to be able to, oh, I guess if you do that, yeah, no, okay, never mind. It has to be link sharing for you to do all of the other things. Because the one that we really care about is the sharing photo. Oops, sharing location, we don't care about. Collaborate, we want comments and likes. You can decide that part you can take off. As the owner of the album, you have the ability to remove any image. As people that you're sharing it with, they can add images and they can download images, but they cannot delete somebody else's image. So you as the owner have that ability, but they do not. And that can be important in case someone puts up a picture they didn't mean to, or some image you don't want to have there, or you put something up that you don't want to have there. Those things you can all come back in and remove. So now I've made sure that these are actually the ways I want to be able to share. Now I'm going to copy the link. It probably is the same link, but I'm just going to copy it now. You could also invite people here again. So if you had all the students' emails, you could stick them right in there. And so now what I would do, and I will do, is come to our chat and give you that link. So now you all are invited into this album. You could look at this on your phone. So for me, I can do all this on my computer, but like I said, in some ways this is made easier even on your phone, where the connection between your photos and your email or text or whatever can be even more connected. So if you came into the album, you could see these images here. And I want to just take us out. I'll go back to our Google slides. So what I did on the slides was I did a lot of slide shots to show you what it looks like, a bit like Liz Elena was doing, where she showed you as the person, the teacher, and then the student, right? So this is all seeing it as the person creating the album, which in this case is the teacher. It could be done the other way, right? A student could create an album and invite other students or invite you to come into that. So this is basically taking you step by step through what I just did. Let's see. Right, so then, and this is about the removing. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I want to show you. So this is, we've seen, let me think here. You're seeing it as a creator right now. I don't think I can. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to look at another Google account to show you.
Now,
yes.
Can I just ask you something?
Yeah.
Because I'm curious.
Yes.
You said with Google Photo that if you use your phone, I have an Android also, and I have several Gmail accounts and stuff like that. But how does it automatically connect to photo?
So it's a setting. In my case, I feel like it was automatic, but you might, it sounds like it might be something you need to set up. So you
Yeah, because I don't have that. That's why
Okay.
I'm asking.
So you'd want to make sure that you have the app downloaded, which is photo, like Google Photo, basically. And I would be surprised if the Android didn't come with it, but it's possible that it didn't. And if you have an iPhone, you can also still have Google Photo. If you're doing iPhone, there's iPhoto for that, and I don't know that as well. And obviously we're focusing on Google, but it is a similar thing of basically putting your images up in the cloud so you can access them across devices. So you would download it, and what I'll do is, Judy, I will find a tutorial on how to link those things.
Great, thanks.
Do it on your phone, and you can also share that with students. As I said, because students would have to have a Google account in order to be able to add to your album, that would be a decision point on whether you're going to use this technique or not with them. But for you personally, it might still be just interesting. And then, you know, I'm kind of at the point where if I was teaching a class, I think I would want all my students to have a Google account, even if they're just using it for my class. And in that case, they would all have that account, and then they could add photos to the album more easily. But if that is going to be a struggle, then don't do this technique. We'll look at Gmail as another way to do it. So, okay, let me go back. I'm going to share. Yes, okay. So now I'm in a different Google account, and I'm going to put that link in. So it's showing me this. I can join it, right? So I'm given this option of joining. So now you see this is the account that I'm in. So I'm going to show here. I'm also going to show in the other. Nell's account is going to see this, and Nical is going to see Nell. And this plus is actually not the way you add a photo. The way you add a photo is you come up to the top over here, this little image. So as you scroll over these things, they tell you what they are, right? So add photos. So this is Nell number 2, and now I can see my Nell number 2's photos, and I want to add one of these photos for the sake of now. I'm just going to add this one. Again, I clicked on it, and I get that blue check or blue circle with a white check. I could click multiple photos if I wanted to. So let's do 2 just for fun. And then I go up to the top and click done. And it's going to add those photos in here. So now I have 3 photos, and you see these are later photos. So they came in above the one that I put in. I want this to be, oops, my phone is listening to me. I want this to be the cover. So I'm going to go to those 3 dots that we saw earlier. And I'm going to do a, oh, see, I'm Nell number 2. So I don't actually have the ability to make the cover. I wanted to decide which image should be the cover. So as the person invited in to this album, I can see slideshow, download all options, show in albums, leave albums, reported views. Show in albums is actually something you want people to click on. So if you were doing this with students, once they have been shared with, they do need to come in here and click on show in albums, so that when they go back to their Google photo, let's go to just photos.google, that they will see that album in their shared photos. So here again, I'm still Nell number 2. I have my albums. And is it showing it yet? I'm not sure. I don't know if it's this one. Yeah. So if I hadn't clicked, I should have shown you, but if I hadn't clicked show it in my albums, you wouldn't be able to see it from out there. You'd have to always come back to it through the link. So it's kind of important to help students so they can come back to it easily, to tell them to add that show in albums piece. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. All right, so any questions about that piece? So the idea here is that you could create an album, you would send the assignment out, and actually I had that in here. So in this one, I even put a picture of the steps that I was asking people to do, right? So write down 2 favorite radio stations, take a photo of the list, and then add that photo to this album. This was a text message that I sent, so you could send it by text. If you knew they were doing it on their phones, you could send it by email or put it up on the Zoom chat or whatever you want to do. But give them the steps you want them to take and a deadline for when to do it. And then all those images would be here, and they would all get to see each other's images. If you wanted them to be allowed to comment, they could comment. So that's the basic of Google Photos. Then the other option, if you're not having them directly put things into an album and you're receiving photos, they're sending them to you. Maybe you're already doing this. They're sending you photos via email. In Gmail, if they're sending it to your Gmail, when you get an email from them, with a photo attached, you get these three options at the bottom. One is to download it. One is to add it to Google Drive, which is also fine. And the third little image there is Google Photo. And if you click on Google Photo, it will save the photo into your photos, and then you can put it into the album. So if students can't directly add their photos, but you're getting a lot of photos and you want to organize them, you could take all those photos just from the email. There's two steps, right? So you read your email, you click there to add it to your photo, and then you go to your photos and move that, not move, because the photo will still stay in your big feed of photos, but you're going to organize it so that it's visible in an album. And then that album is the one that all the students could look at, or you would use next time you're in class to look at their content. So it's just one more way to share images. If you're already using Padlet, that maybe is the way that you're having them share images. But I'd heard from a few people, so someone had asked about how do you this idea that maybe students are handwriting something and you want to get, or they're responding to something that's not digital and you want to get that response back. And photo to me is one thing that phones are real, like phones are cameras. I mean, they're better than any camera I've ever owned as far as how the quality, but certainly this ability to immediately share that photo, whether you're directly putting it into an album or you're emailing it. And again, I think with digital literacy skills, this idea of being able to attach an image or a document to an email and also download or see those images is actually a great skill for students to practice. Yes, Judy, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, I just have a new, a new student that started this week asked me that question because she's a senior citizen. She doesn't have the literacy skills. So I told her, and she's using her phone for the class. So I said, it's exactly what I told her to do is, take a photo, put it in a notebook, take a photo and send it to me.
Mhm.
And I haven't used Google Classroom yet, but what I've done in my teacher Gmail account
Yes.
is because I need more help with Google Classroom, but one of the things I decided to do was to create in my inbox on the left a label, one label that says homework for this class
Mhm.
and homework for the for each
Mhm.
class.
Mhm.
And when I receive something in my inbox, I click on that and label it.
Beautiful.
So that it's in my inbox and in the label.
So you can just pull, right. So that's a great way to, again, these are great techniques for organizing information, right? Like how, and making it easier for you then to come back and find just that group of emails. So that's fantastic.
I just came up with it. I'm not tech savvy like you are, but I just said, all of a sudden I said, let me try to do that. And it works.
That's fantastic. I'm not a big Gmail person, but I do that in my Outlook. And it's been interesting. I especially do it in the calendar. So like all my activities on my calendar are color coordinated. And it is with that idea that if that's an organization, that organizing works for you. And we should we've never really talked about Gmail. But those are, I think that's a great idea. The label is really great. I think you can also have folders. I know that I do that in Outlook where I put a lot of my emails into certain folders. And that way, when I need to find it, I know I could just search in general, but now I know there's sort of a smaller group of things that I can go look at. So we've actually hit our time. But this was fantastic and really exactly what we want to have happen. People sharing all their wonderful tips and experiences and questions, because that's ultimately what we're here for. Are there any, we can take like another 3 minutes, but are there any other questions for today on what we covered? Yeah.
I have a kind of question.
Yeah.
So when I use Google Classroom, we have a lot of assignments coming in. Sometimes I get piled up. Well, I have to return on time, but if you haven't done that, it gets takes a lot of storage. So I have to create another new Google account to do Google Classroom. So is there any other way that I can handle better?
Right, so this is a really good point that I had kind of not realized, that since June, Google content now is taking up Google memory. And so you're gonna hit your memory
15?
pretty quickly, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So having multiple accounts is definitely one way. I've actually started paying for a little extra memory. I mean, it's not a lot of money for a year, but you're going to have to pay it every year, right? Because then you're going to have all that content. So I don't know. Anybody else suggestion?
Can you make yourself, because I've done it, but I haven't accepted. I made myself a co-teacher in my class. Someone else suggested it so they could see what it looked like from the teacher,
Right.
from the student end. But I made myself a co-teacher because sometimes going between the three, I don't know how you guys do it, but between the proper work email, the one that I set up just for work, the one that I had before, it is bananas.
Yes.
And when the student work starts coming in, I just even hate seeing the word submitted now. But I thought, well, I need to find one way that I can at least not have to go back and forth sometimes. So I'm there. That might help. And in the storage, I remember you saying that when you open the account, you get whatever the amount of storage is, you
15
get that.
gigs.
So
Right.
make yourself a student, or make yourself a teacher 3
Co-teacher.
times and put all those accounts in there. I have another account that I don't even use yet that I created just for teacher things, and I haven't used it because I just don't have the
That's it.
energy to be
Right.
bothered. But
So for a single class,
great,
you could be in there multiple times, and each of those different co-teachers would have the full memory available to them. But it might, and I will say, so what you were just saying, Lauren, the other thing is, if you do want to create multiple accounts, one of the things you can do is you can have what they call Chrome profiles. And I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. Let's go to this one. So you saw just now that I was showing you Nell 1 and Nell 2. One of them was Nikal and one of them was me. So so I use Chrome. When I open up Chrome, usually it is my regular consumer account, nellackersley@gmail.com, and I can see my little image up here, or my initial. You might see your initial. And then there's usually a bigger picture here. If you click on the little picture, you see yourself, and then you can actually add additional profiles. So what this is going to do is basically create standalone Chrome accounts. So when I click add, I would sign in with my second account, right? I would go through the process. So you'd put in your new Gmail account and your password for that. And then once you're finished with that, you would be able to see all the different accounts from here. So when I click Nice, down in my taskbar, you might not be able to see it's very small, but I actually now have 3 different Chromes open. And I can just flip between them without having to log in and log out of any account. And so those are called Chrome profiles. And the other thing that I've done with all of those is, this one is teal. I know that's my regular one. This one is pink, so I'm clear that I'm in a different place, because when you do this, it can also start to feel a little schizophrenic. You're like, oh, which one was it? I don't remember. And then this one, I don't even remember what color, and this one's a lighter teal. So when you create your profile, you have the option of changing the background. Let's see if it lets me do that here. If I was going to.
Yeah,
I
it's been
do that,
working very
Nell.
well for-
I do that because when I'm
Excellent.
teaching, I've got two different ones open,
Right.
the teacher one and another one, so I can flip back and forth for what I need.
Excellent.
I
And
do
how
that
did it, so
too, but I didn't know this
Yeah.
color coding thing. I saw it and I was like, what is this? I changed the color, but I was like, when do you see that when you switch over? Because I do switch in the box all the time, and I'm like,
Gotcha.
is it orange? I don't see the orange or
this
purple. I don't.
one should be changing what's up here, right? So if I change it to orange, so it's the shell, it's like the top part of
Oh,
your,
the tabs at the top. Okay.
yeah. And it can really make a difference in very extreme things, right? Like you'd really know orange versus teal. So it's good to use kind of very extreme colors, and that way you really know where you're going to be, where you are. Because that, I think, I've heard from teachers at times, both from students and teachers, where like they did something and they don't know where it is, and odds are they were in a different profile and they didn't notice. And you can find it again, but you have to go to that profile to search, because otherwise it's lost to you. So especially if you're going to have multiple accounts to try and get the memory for free, I would definitely utilize these profiles. And so the way I got there was up here with a little pencil that got me to this screen. And you could change the avatar as well, which is another way that you know where you are, right? So again, you can have different avatars and that would be very clear. And you can have different names. So most of these are named by the organization, but like if you're teacher 1, teacher 2, or spaghetti, lasagna, whatever, you could do it lots of different ways. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, and I think we are really done. We're over time now. So we will be reaching out to you. We'll be giving you the link to today's slides. We will be putting those up on the blog, and we'll send you the link to the blog so you know where that is. We will be working on the personal learning plans, and Liz Elaine and I will have to chat sometime soon and get back in touch with you about exactly what that looks like. But be thinking, right? Maybe review what you have done, if you've done anything, because you guys answered some stuff in a Padlet for us, and we'll send you that link again too, so you can see what you had written there. And these are short term, we're already basically the end of March, so short term goals. But again, if there's ways we can support you, or if we see that several of you have a similar interest area, then we can have you maybe work together. Google Classroom, I think we saw today, like it's so great to see it from both sides. So if you really want to work on Google Classroom, it's great to have a couple of people who can be your students, and then they can be a teacher and invite you in as a student, and that way you get to very organically experience both sides. So those will be the next steps, and so we'll see you in April. And have a lovely rest of March.
Thanks,
Are you
Mel.
still
Thank you,
doing?
Elena.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Are you still going to do the Google Classroom next time?
So Google Classroom, we won't be doing Google Classroom I think we had planned on breaking out Google Classroom over the next few times. So next time we'll be doing personal learning plans, but then we will definitely be, so far we've seen a number of people having questions about Google Classroom. And so if that is true after the personal learning plan next time, we will go deeper into Google Classroom.
Yeah. Another solution for the Google Classroom, Nela, we really mean it, right? Please reach out, right? Like a good way sometimes is a one-on-one, right? It's Zoom one-on-one where you're ready, you have your questions. I create yet another Google, so we could prepare one Google Classroom together and experience it together.